Welcome back. Oil prices rebounded in early trade today after falling around 3% in a previous session, supported by an unexpected fall in U.S. crude inventories. Crude prices had fallen by around 8% in the last 5 trading sessions, and concerns are still growing over the possibility of returning crude supplies from Libya and Nigeria. Both Nigeria and Libya have seen domestic conflicts curb exports. However, both are looking to resume some facilities in the coming weeks. Libya is working to lift force majeure at its port at Zeutina, indicating that Libyan crude exports could start flowing soon. There are also expectations that Nigerian crude supplies could also be returning, as offers for October loading Kwaibo crude have emerged, even as force majeure on the grade remains in place. Now, let's put these into perspective with research analyst at financial derivatives company here in Lagos, Adim Okwesa. Good afternoon, Adim. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Now, we've heard ExxonMobil say it will resume crude exports from Kwaibo terminal. Do you see this and, of course, the plan by Libya to start crude export as a threat to oil price recovery?
Yes, it is, because with this returning production, it just means that the rebalancing process will take longer. Before, there was talk that the markets will rebalance by the end of this year, but now this latest news by the IEA just pushes back that date to the end of 2017. So, of course, that's very bad for the oil market, and very bearish for the oil market.
Now, the OPEC members are preparing to meet later this month. Do you see these developments in Nigeria and Libya being a factor that the members may have to consider when they meet later this month?
Yeah, of course. I think they have to consider all these details, because it makes the meeting more difficult. It makes an agreement more difficult to happen, because with this latest news, it intensifies the talk that the production freeze wouldn't just be enough to stabilize the market, that what these producers actually need to production. Considering the fact that most OPEC producers, particularly the Gulf producers in the Gulf region, are producing at close to full capacity. Even Russia is producing at close to full capacity. So there needs to be more than just a production freeze. OPEC has said previously that the market will rebalance on its own. But I think if OPEC wants the market to rebalance, it needs to take action, not just talk.
Now, if crude exports from Kwaibo terminal resumes, how much impact will that have on Nigeria's revenue?
It's excellent news for Nigeria's revenue generation target, because considering the fact that with an average budget price at $38 per barrel and crude averaging about $40 to $42 per barrel so far this year, the problem has not been low prices, but rather insufficient production. So with increasing oil production, it means more revenue will be shared out to states, local governments, and more revenue will be accrued to the excess crude accounts. So it is very good for the government in meeting its revenue generation targets.
Now, incidentally, the recent monthly oil market report released by OPEC indicated that Nigeria's production, of course, was down and in August due to, and that also affected OPEC's production. Now, where does that now leave Nigeria? And of course, what would now be the implication of this to perhaps the outcome of the meeting OPEC will be having later this month?
Well, yeah, Nigeria's OPEC released a report saying that the production declined, the group's production declined. But of course, we're just hearing news that Libya, Nigeria are set to bring about almost close to 700,000 barrels back to the market. And considering the fact that other Gulf countries are producing at close to full capacity. So in forthcoming reports, we should see an increase in the group's production. So like I said before, it just intensifies the talks that a production freeze wouldn't be enough.
Right. So in all of these, what is your outlook for the global oil market?
Well, the outlook is uncertain at this point. Good news is that oil prices have bottomed out. So we do not expect to see low 20s or early 30s that we saw in February, March. Well, with improving oil market fundamentals, we expect oil prices to average about $45 to $55 for the end of this year, for the rest of this year and the majority of next year. And oil prices should gradually inch higher towards $60 by the end of 2017. So I think the market consensus is $52 per barrel or average oil price for 2017.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Adim. Adim Okwesa, research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company here in Lagos. Now let's look into that Libya's oil following a pledge from Libya's National Oil Corporation to restart oil exports from Zoutina port. The head of the labor union says more than 1 million barrels are ready to go. The chairman of Libya's National Oil Corporation visited the port of Zoutina on Wednesday and said he would work to lift a force majeure there.
The visit by NOC chairman Mustafa Sanala came days after forces loyal to Eastern Commander Khalifa Haftar seized Zoutina and 3 other oil ports from a rival force allied to UN-backed government in Tripoli. Sanala says the NOC will begin work immediately to restart exports from the ports, but the plan could face political and legal resistance.
Because of the militia were stationed here, Libya in general, but the port in particular, had been experiencing very difficult conditions. But thank God the blinds have been removed, and I have hope for the future of Libya. Today we have shipments from around 103 stations, and our situation is good. And we have around 1,200,000 barrels in stock that are ready for export.
But some members of the UN-backed government of national accord have criticized Haftar's seizure of the ports, and Western powers have condemned the move, saying they were ready to prevent any exports attempted outside the GNA's authority. Haftar's Libyan National Army, LNA, started taking over the ports in a drone cooperation on Sunday, September the 11th. The displaced a guard force led by Ibrahim Jathran, who had recently signed a controversial deal with the GNA to lift his blockade of Ras Lanuf, Es-Saida and Zoutina.
We took control of the port on the first day of Eid and then delivered a statement to the media. I was ordered to arrange for a colonel to become one of the oil guards and send a small number of soldiers and NCOs to assist him. They are all currently here, and we haven't faced any problems with delivery or collection.
Political turmoil, armed conflict and militant attacks have reduced Libya's oil production to a fraction of the 1.6 million barrels per day it produced before the North African country's 2011 uprising. Some infrastructure, including the Ras Lanuf and Es-Saida terminals, have been badly damaged. The combined capacity of the 4 ports seized by the LNA is about 770,000 barrels per day. Es-Saida, Ras Lanuf and Zoutina have all been under force majeure, while Brega has remained open but with a reduced output.
Botswana has cut its 2016 economic growth estimate to 3.5% from an earlier projection of 4.2%. Deputy Secretary for Macroeconomic Policy in the Ministry of Finance says the economy is expected to grow 4.1% in 2017, down from an estimate of 4.3% presented by the Finance Minister in February. He says the government expects Botswana to post a budget deficit of 4.1% of GDP in 2017.